Good afternoon and welcome back to Work-Based Webinar Wednesday. I am Dominique Bates, the Associate CTE Director for Work-Based Learning and Community Partnerships. I have with me again my great CTE Director, awesome leader, Dr. Holly Poor, and she's going to bring some information to you today. Our topic is discipline. She's going to tie it in to some of the things that you should be disciplined on doing right now if you are a high school student or a middle school student. So middle school students, high school students, this message is even for parents. So parents, pay attention so that you can help set your student up for success. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Dr. Holly Poor take it away.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon. It is so great taking this with all of you. I am Holly Poor, the CT Director of Rowan Salisbury. Fortunate to be working with Mr. Bates and being able to bring to you these important and relevant topics on our Wednesdays together. So today we're really going to talk about discipline, and I'm going to tie that into pursuit of post-secondary after school educational endeavors. So when I thought about a topic, because Mr. Bates asked me to kind of lend myself and lend today's conversation to discipline, I thought, well, what can I really connect the art of discipline for students? I thought right now for our student audience that is tuning in or will tune in at a later time, those of you who specifically are 12th graders, seniors in high school, you are probably thinking about what is next for you. And there's probably different answers and different paths for this. But I wanted to really connect that career and college readiness for you today. And a lot of times when we talk about college, we understand that college is not for everyone. It's not for every student. But at the same time, calling attention to those students who are pursuing CTE pathways while in high school may not go straight to work. And so at whatever point you choose to experience career learning, lifelong learning is a part of that endeavor. And so whether that is learning on the job or whether that's learning through a higher learning comes with your pursuit towards whatever career you have dreamed and outlined for yourself. So we're going to connect the concept of discipline to the pursuit or university. So seeing this is relevant, immediate information for you. You are an underclassman, middle school upwards, and not quite a senior yet. This is all information that I think you can kind of notate and be aware of, because before you blink your eyes, it will be your senior year in high school. And so I hope that the information shared today will be applicable to all of the audience. So we'll just get right to it and jump right on in. So today's session is geared to college. And so I thought the first thing I would do, attending for the first time and you weren't able to be part of other when I was a part of the panel, thank you, and very honored to do so. I wanted to introduce again, I'm Holly Poor, the director of CTE for Rowan Salisbury Schools. And since we're talking about college, I thought that I would just highlight my journey of higher educational pursuits after high school. So I am from Greensboro, North Carolina, and I attended Western Guilford High School. I graduated from Western. And from there, I went to North Carolina A&T State University. Aggie Pride, all parents and adults who are chiming in or even sinking to A&T. I have to always give my shout out to you and say Aggie Pride to you. But while at A&T, I pursued my bachelor's bachelor's degree in marketing and management. And I graduated in 2001. So from there, I worked, I experienced work, and not in education, believe it or not. So I changed career paths, and that's a natural thing people met for originally. And so I first started out in banking, and really enjoyed that experience. But thankfully, I was able to find my passion in education, and became a classroom business teacher in 2004. And I taught for 10 years. After graduating from North Carolina A&T in 2001, I took a little bit before I went back to school. And so I didn't go to pursue my master's until 2009. And so I took, several years off, learned a lot, through, and decided for myself that about what I was as a classroom teacher. And I just wanted to, learn more and be better as I served students. And so I went to UNC Charlotte and pursued a master's in curriculum and supervision. I mean, it really just gave me a full lens, not just on business education, which was what I was teaching, but all aspects of how learn how things are integrated and having implement one another, and how you can make your educational delivery comprehensive, where they see the connection, and then they can go over to reading or English, and see some relatedness there. And so it was really important for me to really understand the fullness of curriculum, and really help to be a teacher leader, and have some. So I finished that degree in 2010. Didn't stop there. They learn the journey of learning, of the conversations that come from when you're engaged in a learning process. So again, it's not to speak to everyone on this call that you have to make the same decisions I make, or you have to follow the same pathways that I followed, but to say that always pursue learning. What discipline means, as I kind of tie down who I am, discipline really speaks to the being a doer. So that's what we're saying. Seeking knowledge and prayer. As you seek that knowledge, be a doer. Don't just seek the knowledge and sit on it. But once you attain the knowledge, once you acquire the knowledge, then you have to actually put it into action and apply what it is that you found out. So we're talking about today, to stay at UNC Charlotte. Then in 2012, I pursued my doctorate. Now, I'll tell you, I didn't complete my doctorate until very recently in 2018. But all of that time and all of those experiences and all of that staff contributed to my. So I hope this conversation is a start. What you need to be doing specifically to my seniors on the call, and underclassmen, what you need to prepare for as you approach that senior year. So I'm here to help you with your career in secondary. And when I say secondary, that means middle and high school. So as you are a middle school and a high school student, that is your secondary education. So talking to you a little bit about how you identify what those interests are, how you identify what your passions are, that maybe lead you to career towards.
Dr. Poor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excuse me. You are breaking up a good bit. Yeah. You say you can't hear me, or you can hear me? You can. You are breaking up a good bit. I can barely hear you on my end.
Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can make a shift.
Like, you sound very clear right now. No breakup at all. But I don't want anyone to miss out on the information,
Okay. Yes, sir. So let me know if I need to change. I will be glad to do that. But we'll keep if you can this, Mr. Bates. Okay.
Move
Let
forward.
me change. Okay. Let me change locations.
Okay. And while we're talking about discipline, I see my mom on here. She was a real stickler about discipline, and her main thing was listen. One of the best things you can do to discipline yourself, and a rule that you can go by with discipline is that you have two ears and you have one mouth for a reason. So what that means to me, you might be asking, what does that mean? What that means to me is that you should be listening more than you're talking. And so if
Absolutely.
you're listening more, then you have the ability to take in information, and you have the ability to take action with the information that you have consumed. And so um, I'll leave you with that nugget. And another nugget that I was always taught was the three L's: look,
Okay.
listen, and learn. And so whenever you're doing anything, if you're with a group or it can be a one-on-one, you need to be looking at that person that's
Mm,
talking. And this can be anybody that you're talking to. If you're looking at them, then they know that you're listening. You're using those two ears. And then
yes.
if you're listening, more than likely you're going to learn something, because you can learn something from anybody. And so
So
look, listen,
look,
learn.
listen, and learn. Yes.
That's it. Three L's. All right, I
Okay.
think we're
Well.
clear. I think I can hear you a lot better now. So
Okay.
go ahead and move forward.
All right, well, we'll do that. So, just attendees, if there's anything that I can do for you, I will have my contact information at the end of this presentation, and I invite you to connect with me. And if I'm not the correct person that you should be speaking with or speaking to, I will definitely try my best to lead you and guide you towards that right individual. So for today's agenda, we are going to speak to the following bullet points. We're going to talk about the SAT and ACT. For those of you who are not quite familiar with these acronyms, these are college admission tests. And so we'll speak to those two tests. We'll make a plan. We'll talk about what is that plan of. I'm really honing you now that it is October 21st, you're thinking about your post-secondary higher education institution plan of action. We're going to talk about college applications and college application week. We're going to speak to the FAFSA process. And for those of you who have probably heard of FAFSA and never really knew what it's, FAFSA is the free student aid. It's kind of right for this second to last bullet. That is what that acronym stands for. It is a free application. It costs no money. Students for you to fill out. Your parents or guardians will have a portion of that application that they will be responsible for determine what federal financial aid you would receive or are eligible to receive in order to help pay for your college and or university. And then lastly, we'll talk about some scholarships. So, Mr. Bates, are you still okay with me as far as hearing me okay?
Yes, you're good. It's much better.
Okay, good. Please just interrupt me anytime. Audience, kind of just off to the side to the right, there are some announcements for you. Seniors, as of October, the FAFSA window opened. And so you now, and we're still very new, into when it became opened. And so the sooner you apply for federal aid, the more likely you are to get more of it, because it's on a first come, first served basis. There's no priority. income-based needs over here versus, other factors over there. It is whoever applies for the aid first is who gets it. So the earlier you apply, the better chances you are, one, to get the aid, and two, to get more of it. So I wanted to kind of bring that series that October 1st was the opening of that window. Thing of college application week. And so starting Monday, today's only Wednesday. So starting Monday, October 19th through the end of this month is free application week. What does that mean? Seniors, that week and next week, you can fill out your college applications, and we'll talk about it because it's not every school. So we'll talk about which schools it applies to, but you can fill out your college application free of charge. And so you may ask yourself, oh, I never knew there was an application fee to fill out a college application to attempt to go to school there, but there is. So those are just some hot announcements that I wanted to bring your way.
Yeah. I need to make something clear to our students about this FAFSA though. Because so what happens is with that FAFSA is there's a big bucket of money, right, that they're giving out. Okay. Once they run out, the reason why she's saying is the earlier the earlier you apply, the better, because once they run out, and you got to think about how many people do you know want to go to college? Mm-hmm. How many people are really filling out this FAFSA form? A whole lot of people, right? But once they run out of this bucket of money, once it runs dry, there's no more, and they can't give you anything. So you need to apply like yesterday.
Yes. Yes. And the good news is, Mr. Bates, is that it opened October 1st. So, seniors on the call, you are still in the beginnings of that application window for FAFSA. So to Mr. Bates' point, go ahead and apply because you should have applied yesterday. So just, keeping it moving forward, here is the timeline. And so, for those juniors on the call, this is great for you because you have a firsthand glimpse, because your senior year is coming. And so right away, juniors on the call, what you need to be doing starting this coming summer as you start or go into your senior year. Seniors on the call and other students, I don't want to just, pinpoint juniors and seniors. Other students, please, just be attentive to the timeline. But for seniors, the summer through September. September was just last month. What you should have been doing, and if you haven't started, you got some things to make up. But what you should have been doing is asking for recommendations. And so you need to seek out, typically it is a core subject teacher in which you need to seek a recommendation from. So your English, math, social studies, and or science. I will tell you, if you already know that you're interested in pursuing engineering and you have taken engineering at your high school, getting a recommendation letter from that engineering teacher is also beneficial. If you know you want to pursue nursing, getting a recommendation from your health science teacher. So if you already have in mind of what department or what college within the college you want to apply to, because it's the big college, but then within the big college or university, they have the departments that will match to your degree. And so if you already have a mind for what you want to major in once you get to college, seeking a recommendation from that same area teacher is a benefit. So taking or retaking your SAT or ACT, we're going to talk specifically about the graduating class this year. There's a new legislation out there just because of our COVID pandemic that really speaks to this requirement for you. But typically through the summer up to September, you want to be taking and retaking the SAT and ACT. You want to complete your RDS. And what RDS stands for is your Residency Determination Service. So what that means, why is that important? Why do I need to complete my residency? And so they have something called in-state and out-of-state tuition. And there is a huge difference between paying for tuition in and out of state. And so students, if you're pursuing a college or university in the state of North Carolina, you absolutely want to be considered a resident of North Carolina. And it's not as simple as, well, yeah, I have my utility bill and it shows that I'm a resident here, or my school report card shows my address is here. No, it's not that simple. You actually have to go in and complete your residency determination to prove, to have evidence that you are indeed a North Carolina resident. So we'll talk about that, writing essays and starting your applications. And so a lot of college applications require students to speak about themselves, speak about your goals, speak about your passions, speak about your career aspirations. If you have overcome a challenge in your life, highlighting, that productive struggle. It was a struggle for you, but it was productive because you overcame it. And so really starting to write your essays and starting those applications is important. And then creating your FSA ID. And what FSA stands for, it kind of looks similar to this down here, FAFSA, but this is your Federal Student Aid ID. And so you want to create that in this time frame. Now that we're in October, what should we be doing, students? It was on the second slide. October 1st started the window for FAFSA. So you want to be completing your FAFSA in the month of October. The sooner you do it, the more likely you are to get a reward, and the higher that reward will be. You want to start applying early for scholarships. And I can't stress that enough. There's so much free money out there, but you have to dig and you have to know where to look, and you have to give yourself time to look. And a lot of times those scholarships have deadlines in and of themselves. So you want to kind of create a calendar. Like, I really want to try this scholarship out. I think I can get it. Even if you don't think you can get it, what's the harm in applying? Like, still, like,
what they gonna do? Tell you no, that you ain't
do?
getting it?
Exactly. So it doesn't hurt in applying. And there's never a charge for scholarships. Students, if they charge you to apply for a scholarship, do not apply. Okay?
No.
Because typically when you apply for scholarships, it should be free of charge. So if you come on a scholarship and they're saying pay this $50 or whatever that amount may be in order to apply, that is not the scholarship for you. There's so many scholarships out there that have no fee to their application, but you want to start that process early. And then you want to start to submit your applications. As we go into the winter and into spring semester, real quick, because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I think I'm talking too much, Mr. Bates.
You got it.
But
Great information.
As we go into November and December, you want to have your applications already submitted. You want to go into your December holiday break free from, oh, I got to still do this and that, once I come from break with regards to your college applications. You want to go into your December winter break free from that stressor. Not that you won't have other stressors because you're waiting on the decision from that institution, but at least it would have been submitted. So you want to do that. If possible, you want to start visiting campuses. And so I know things look very different in the midst of COVID, and they may not be, entertaining, college visits like they would traditionally. So maybe you can attend some virtual visits and do it creatively that way. For January and February, you will start to receive your admissions decisions. So it will allow you that the remainder of your spring semester start preparing for where you're going to go. And if you apply to more than one place, and you should, we're going to talk about that. If you apply to more than one school, then as you receive your decisions, then you can start prioritizing and really looking specifically at the schools that you're getting accepted to, where realistically you may end up come the fall. And then you want to begin receiving your financial aid awards and comparing them. So as you're applying for those scholarships and as you're applying for FAFSA, if college A's tuition's here and college B tuition is there, and you get your awards letter, well, you have some comparing to do. And so that allows you the opportunity to do that. And then finally, Mr. Bates, in March and in April, you'll send your enrollment deposit. Typically, they require a deposit for them to hold your spot. And then you want to notify your school, your high school, where you're going, because they like to kind of promote that. They put, acceptance letters on the walls. They're going to give you a shout out in some way, shape, or form. And then you want to celebrate. You want to have, the reveal party, or however you young people share your news. You want to be able to share that with the people who have supported you along the way. So this is
Yeah.
your college timeline. So I'll stop here for any
Can I
comments.
add something? Can I add something
Sure.
to this? So in October, when you're applying for those early scholarships and when you're taking advantage of free application week, like Dr. Poor has told you to, it's important to notate that there are scholarships tied to schools that you want to go to as well. So schools have scholarships that are embedded at the school that you can apply for, and it's all based on what your GPA is, your GPA or your ACT score. So if you have like a 3.0, then you might be able to apply for a silver scholarship. If you have a 3.5 or higher, then you can apply for the gold scholarship. But you need to know, that's where I messed up. I didn't apply for the school scholarships. I had other scholarships that I applied for, and I got a lot of them. But when it came down to the school scholarship, I was going to school, and when I got there, I was noticing that people were getting these refund checks, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I got a scholarship," and I was like, "Okay."
Oh yeah.
What was your? I started comparing them. What was your GPA? What was your, and we had the same credentials, but I did not apply for those school scholarships. You got to make sure, you got to notate for the schools that you want to go to. You need to look on their website because they have scholarships that are related to that school, that particular school. And then the other thing you need to think about when you start comparing your awards letters, right?
Yes.
You had, and I like what you said. You need to look at what the tuition of the school is, right? Because sometimes you're gonna get an award letter that says, "We want to give you $250,000," right? And then you're gonna get another award letter that says, "We want to give you $25,000." Well, if the school that's giving you $250,000 cost $1 million to go to, then what are they really giving you? But and then on the other hand, if the school that's going to give you $25,000 only costs $30,000 to attend, then that's the one that you need to go with. It might look like, okay, they're giving me 250 versus 25, but you need to compare you need to look at what the actual tuition is.
Right.
So don't get caught up in the number.
Yes, great points. And Mr. Bates, all of this timeline speaks to discipline. So again, our undergirding topic is discipline. So there is action required of you. It's not going to just fall in your lap. It's not going to happen by happenstance. Faith without substance is faith without action, without substance is dead. So there is something that is required of you. You desire to go to college. You desire to extend your learning at a higher educational institution. Well, great in that desire. Great that you have that passion. Great that you have that goal. But if you stop there, it's not going to happen. So this timeline is all about discipline. There's some things that you have to do and some things that you have to pursue. And there's some things that you have to follow up on in order to get that end goal for yourself. Okay, so let's really quickly talk about SAT, ACT. The North Carolina school system this year only, and I'm going to stress that this year only, those two tests are optional. Because remember, the timeline says that you should be starting to take those tests during summer through September. If you remember a couple of slides back, we said you should start to be taking your SAT and ACT during the summer through September. Well, what were we in the midst of from summer through September and still now? We were in the midst of COVID-19. So because of our pandemic, this global pandemic, this year, the North Carolina University system has made these two tests optional. So juniors on the call, this is not, I'm not talking to y'all. I'm not talking to you. This is only for the seniors on the call to let them know that that is an optional test. So how do you decide whether or not, if you have the opportunity to take the test, how do you decide whether or not you submit your test or not? So should you still sign up? Yes. So if you have a school or an opportunity to take the SAT or ACT, go ahead and still continue to sign up for those tests. You want to try to improve your score and you want to try to boost your application. So although it's not a requirement, which means it won't hurt you, it could absolutely help you. So with that in mind, sure, still take your test. If you're applying to big scholarships or private schools, they may still require this. So the title at the top is the University North Carolina System. So those are all of the public institutions, but that does not speak to the private institutions. And then, of course, if you're applying to some of those big scholarships, that may still be one of their requirements. When maybe you should not sign up for the test, if you already have a good GPA, maybe not so much. If you haven't taken the test yet, it may not be a big stressor for you to seek out a test opportunity to take it if your GPA is good. Your score is really far from the average at the schools that you're applying. So maybe you've already taken the test and you've done your research, you've looked at your schools, you've seen the minimum SAT and ACT scores, and your score is far from that score. So if your score is far from that score, and that's because not everybody's a test taker. Like, not everybody takes tests well under pressure, timed, etc. And it doesn't speak to the wellness of you as a student. It just means that you're not a great test taker, or you weren't a great test taker on that day. And so if those two things if those two things are your reality, then maybe not submit an SAT or SAT score. So yes and no. Your score can only help you this year. So we'll keep it moving. So here are the institutions that still require an SAT or ACT score. So look really quickly, students, at this list. And again, we're only speaking to schools in North Carolina. This does not include schools outside of North Carolina. So if you're entertaining, applying for schools outside of North Carolina, you'll have to do your own research there. But just at a glance, these schools that are listed right here in blue still require an ACT and or SAT score. All other schools, you see the note at the bottom? Every other North Carolina college or university is test optional for the 2021 application for the current senior class. Okay, so that hopefully will help you know which schools. Take a picture with your cell phone. So if you're joining in, take a picture real quick of yourself with your cell phone. These schools require you to have an ACT, SAT, and or. It's usually not both. It's one or the other. Some students take both just to kind of compare, but they require one or the other. The other schools in North Carolina, it is test optional. So that helps you to know how to move forward. How do you know what schools, and this is to the parents, how do you know what schools my students should apply for? So for parents, here's some things you want to consider, parents, as you're having those conversations with your young person, with your current senior or even junior or younger in the house. You want to kind of make a college list. And, of course, I'm only focusing on the list in North Carolina. And you want to think about which schools match you academically and which schools fit you personally. Because I've had schools where I've had friends of mine who went to a school because, one of these factors was in alignment, the other one was off, and they ended up transferring. And sometimes when you transfer, you can lose credit. And so it's really important that you're not just focused in on one lane, that you're not just looking at, the academic side and do they have my major, and based on my GPA, is that kind of the typical, student who attends, the average student who attends this school? You want to look to that because you want to be surrounded with you know, like folks to kind of share in your learning process, but you also want to be surrounded with folks of differences and diverse people. And that's the beauty of college, is that you meet people from all walks of life, even people who look like you. You may have someone who looks like you, same gender, same ethnicity, same race, and they may be completely different than you are. And so that brings a whole just art to when you go off to school, to be able to have that time to interact with similar and different folks, but just making sure that there's a fit for you personally. What's around the city? What's the make of the city? What's the feel of the culture of the school that you're going? That's why visits are important. And I know in the pandemic, you're not able to kind of really get on the physical campus, maybe some of you, but being able to talk to someone who goes to that school, maybe get their perspective, look at the reviews of the school and things of that nature. You also want to match parents after you kind of make a list of academically and personal fit match. You want to look at grades, GPA, class rank, and college average. So you want to look at those other issues, or I say issues, other factors or criteria as you're starting to make selections for your placement, where you're going to be. And then lastly, you want to look at personal preferences. You want to look at, like, how far is it from home? When I want to get that home cooked meal, or when I want to get my clothes washed for free, or when I just need to see mom, dad, when I need to see grandma, grandpa, when I need to see my pastor, when I need to see my neighbor, when I need to check on my little brother or my little sister, whatever that support person is for you. Sometimes it makes all the difference to know how far are you away from them. Do I want to drive 5 hours to be able to see that one person who I know has my back, has my best interest at heart, or do I need them to be closer? So all those things you want to take into consideration when you're making your college choice. Mr. Bates, I'll stop there. Are we good?
We are good.
Okay. As you create your college list, there's three. I told you earlier, please don't just apply to one school. Please don't just apply to one school. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So here is kind of the guidance for you as you are making and creating your college list. Here's how you should apply for schools. You should apply for one school, or you should apply to at least one school where you're probably going to be accepted. How do you know you're probably going to be accepted? Because you've looked at the GPA and you looked at the test scores, and your GPA and your test scores are higher than the average admitted student. So you're probably going to be accepted because you're higher than their average student. You also want to apply to a school where you're on target, which means as you look at your GPA and test scores, they're about the same of the average student that they accept into their school. And so you want to apply for an on-target school. You also may want to think about applying for a reach school, that school where your GPA and test scores are lower than the average admitted student. But hey, you never know, because they don't just look at GPA and test scores. They look at the fullness of who you are and what you have to offer. That's why your essays are so important. That's why your teacher recommendations are so important. That's why your community service is so important. That's why your part-time job, those of you who work, is so important, because it speaks to the wholeness of you as a student. And so if you have a reach school, maybe your GPA, because you were doing all those incredible things, maybe your GPA wasn't where other students who got accepted there was, or your test score wasn't there, but you have all these other things to speak to who you are as a student and who you are as a person. So go ahead and apply to that reach school, because you never know until you apply. The rule of thumb is to apply to 3 to 5 schools, right? And when do you want to do it, students? Now. Why now? Because the application fee is waived for most schools. For this week and for next week, those 3 to 5 schools that you are thinking about, or that you will start to do your research and start to really narrow in on, go ahead and apply to them in the next couple of weeks, because the fee most likely will be waived for you. And then lastly, I want to speak to this last bullet: early decision versus early action versus regular decision. What is the difference here? So early decision is legally binding. So if you, as you're looking at the different schools, if you do an early decision, remember we're asking you to apply to 3 to 5 schools. If you do an early decision to one of those schools, you are legally binded. It doesn't matter if you get accepted into all 5 schools. You don't need to compare. You don't need to figure out what you have already given an early decision, which means you are legally binded to that school. So I kind of stay away from those early decision schools, just because you never know what may come up. And to be legally binded in November or December and come May, there's a different, scenario for you. It's kind of hard, but that's the difference. That's an early decision. Early action is that you're applying early to the schools so that you can benefit off of those scholarships that Mr. Bates said, looking on the schools page, seeing what scholarships are available so you can start making those plans and doing those action steps. And so that's an early decision. The earlier you apply, the more information will be readily at your fingertips. And then regular decision is around January, February ish, when people students start to receive their decisions back. And so a regular decision is to be able to receive it during that time frame of January, February. But early action usually means you'll get it before Christmas break or before your holiday break in December. And then early decision is when you are legally bonded to go to that school, doesn't matter what happens. Okay, so where do you apply? CFNC.org is where you can apply for your free college waiver application week. You go there. If you probably have a CFNC account. If you're not sure because you haven't signed on in so long, you don't know if you have an account, consult your school counselor. They should be able to look you up and be able to get you that information. Don't create another account. Okay, so if at some point, even if it was 6th grade, I know I created a CFNC account. We did some things, but I haven't been there since 6th grade. It's okay. Your account is still there, and your school counselor will be able to get you that information. Components of your application, we kind of already spoke about this earlier, but you have the background information of who you are. You have your essays, your transcript, your recommendation letters, and your application fee. Again, this week and next week, this fee is waived for most of our schools. So how much is an application fee? You're probably asking, like, what's the big deal of applying now, this week or next week, besides, just being considered for early opportunities? Here is the range for application fees. So from $35 to $85. And remember, what was the recommendation of how many schools we are asking you to apply for? You remember? It was 3 to 5. That's right. It was 3 to 5. So if you multiply 3 times 85 or 3 times 35, you're already out over $100. So it can be expensive to just apply. You haven't even been accepted. There's no guarantee to you getting accepted. It's just to apply. And so that's why we stress, go ahead and get those applications out and submit it during this week and next week so you can avoid those fees. Community college, those of you who desire to start at a community college and either end there because all you need is a two-year degree for what you care to pursue with your career, or you want to start there and transfer to a 4-year school after your first 2 years because it's cheaper. It just makes more sense. Community college, cheaper tuition. And so it may make a lot of sense to start at a community college before you go to a 4-year college or university. And typically those applications are free. Okay, we've already given this announcement. Notice how I'm throwing it in there every now and again. Mr. Bates just reminding our audience of when that free application fee is waived. So go ahead and do that this week or next week. And it is for some colleges. It's not all colleges who waive the fee. Typically, most private schools in North Carolina will waive the fee. Very few public schools participate, but you'll be surprised. I mean, there's tons of schools in the state of North Carolina. So don't just say, well, I plan on applying to North Carolina A&T. Notice how I brought that up. That's my beloved. But I plan to apply to North Carolina A&T, or I plan to apply to UNC Charlotte. I know for sure that North Carolina A&T waives their application fee. So although it says very few public schools participate, go ahead and check in cfnc.org and see if one of the schools that you're interested in applying for waives their fee during these 2 weeks.
Yep.
And as we round off, I know I hope my audience is still with me. I hope it's good and you guys are getting and taking some good
Great
notes down.
information.
So,
Great information.
I know it's a lot, but just here are some things that I thought. These are workshops for students to be able to attend to learn more about the FAFSA process, because the FAFSA process can be so intimidating. And it can be intimidating for parents too. So parents who are on the call, FAFSA can just be a lot. It's simple, but it's not. It's easy, but it's not. And sometimes it can be so intimidating that people just put it off, and then before you know it, you've missed the window, and you're not, attending school this upcoming fall. So here are the topics. If you're interested in college applications, remember this RDS is residency, and you just have it on your report card that your address is in the state of North Carolina is not, the determination for your residency. If you want to learn more about that, if you want to learn about FAFSA, and then here's some other things. What about an essay? I don't even know how to start my college, essay. If you want to learn more about these various topics, and here's all the schools who are participating, it tells you when it's being offered. And so all you need to do is reach out to the school and get connected. But I just wanted to provide this information for you, because I know some of this information that we're talking about is like, what are you saying to me right now? So you need help. You need your partners to kind of help you in your pursuit for your dreams. And so here's just another way to be connected with information. And then finally, how do we get in-state tuition? This is what we talked about earlier. I know this date says this was supposed to happen on Sunday. It's not too late. So you just go in and you complete your RDS, and it is required to apply for North Carolina public institutions. It's needed for community colleges as well. If you're not sure if you qualify, all you have to do is reach out to your school counselor. They know exactly what a residency determination service is. And if you're still kind of cloudy and you want to talk to someone first that you trust and I would reach out to your school counselor, and they should be able to guide you. Without your residency, so without being able to prove that you are a North Carolina resident, again, I chose A&T just because I'm biased. I'll admit, Mr. Bates, I'm biased.
You think you're biased?
I know you're biased to Winston-Salem State.
You're biased?
But I just wanted to show the difference. So for those students who get in-state tuition, you're paying about $6,000 per year. And again, I know that's a big chunk of a number, but there's a lot of factors that are into that, room and board. So if you decide to do something else, the type of meal plan you get, they include books and things of that nature. So this is a variable. It's not a fix. This is what you're going to pay, but this is about what the cost of the first year or each year at A&T, if you are a resident in North Carolina, you would pay. I have a son who is attending North Carolina A&T. He's an engineering major. Shout outs to Jalen Good. That is my baby. He's a sophomore, but he is attending A&T. And so this was very helpful for us to know the difference. If you are an out-of-state attending A&T, you see the difference there? So it jumps greatly. And so just because you are physically living in North Carolina, that isn't proof enough that your residency is in North Carolina. So you want to get that done. Okay. And we talked about CFNC. Again, don't apply for another account. If you need help with your account, seek your school counselor. They'll be able to get you started and be able to get you your account information if you don't know it. Then once you have it, find a place where you can put your passwords and things like that, because you'll have to apply for FAFSA every year. It's not a one-time thing. Each and every year, you'll have to apply for FAFSA. So you want to have that at your fingertips so that you'll be able to refer back to it when you need it. Here's all the information that you'll need for the residency determination. your social security numbers for you and your parents' date of birth, your parents' license, and if your parents file taxes. So notice how I'm saying parents, 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 parents. So parents, this is for you. This is your homework, to kind of help your student as they are trying to advance and pursue post-secondary education. Here is what's needed, parents, to be able to apply for this. And students on the call, if you don't know your social security number by heart, go ahead and remember and memorize that. Okay, so I've given my own household, my own children, that homework task. Like at a certain age, you need to know your social security number, because you'll use it for so many things in life, and it's not anything that you need to write down. We're even advised not to carry your card in your wallet, because if someone steals your wallet, man, if they have your social security number, they can do a lot of damage there. But it's something that you want to remember, so that when you need it, when it's called for, you have it. Okay, I'm going to skip through all of this. This is CFNC and residency determination, the site where you would go. So parents, again, this is your homework, and you'll have this presentation, I hope, Mr. Bates, for a reference in the future, but we'll skip it for now. Again, this really just talks about the residency certification number. You'll need this number when you apply for your schools in order to be able to be considered an in-state applicant as opposed to an out-of-state applicant. So those slides that I kind of clicked through, and this slide just shows you where you'll find that residency number once you apply for it. And then financial aid, needs-based financial aid versus merit-based. So needs-based is looking at income. That's why they ask for your parents' income tax. And don't think just because you make a certain amount that, your student wouldn't qualify, or students don't think because your parents have a certain type of job that you wouldn't qualify. So remember, we talked about the sooner you apply, the more likely it is for you to get an award, and the more likely it is for you to get a higher award. So don't count yourself out. Let somebody else tell you no. Don't tell yourself no. Let somebody else tell you no. That's it. That's it. So there's no harm in applying. So go ahead. But that's the difference. Needs-based looks at income. Merit-based looks at all the other things you do, student, as a student, from your athletics to, if you are a music major, they want to see an audition. If you are an art or design major, they want to see your work, keeping a portfolio. If you haven't kept your work, start keeping your work if that's your craft. And so that's kind of the difference between the two. All right. And just some more information about FAFSA. You'll need that ID number before you can complete the FAFSA. It's a part of the process. It's required to qualify for loans and all other types of aid. I actually had a work study in college, and really a work study is when you work in a department or an area of the college or university. They may pay you with an actual check, or it may actually go back to your tuition. My parents wanted it to go right back to my tuition because they didn't trust me with check in hand. So I worked the work study, but I never received a check because it just went back to my tuition. It was discounted off of my tuition. But I was able to get that through applying for FAFSA. I had a needs based and was able to qualify for work study. But here's all the things that FAFSA entails for you. Questions if you want to know any more information about FAFSA. Again, it opened October 1st, must finish by your school's priority deadline. So you want to look at the individual colleges that you're applying for, and you want to look at when they require you to have it filled out. Some are January 1st, some are March 1st. It just depends on your school. So you just want to look at that. Who should complete the FAFSA? If you're going to a community college or four-year college or university, everybody and all eligible students. And here is a list of who would be eligible for federal financial aid. And then, to round our conversation up, your scholarship search, there's two scholarship types. One of them is institutional. Mr. Bates kind of talked about that. It's directly from the college or university. It becomes part of your financial aid package. So FAFSA gives you aid um, based off of need, and then your scholarships gives you aid regardless of need. So that's kind of a difference in how you can look at that. So you can contact your colleges and universities to see what scholarships they have, outside scholarships or private scholarships. And you have to report those to your college or university so that they can adjust your financial package. But if you don't have, a full understanding of the scholarship search, of course, you can seek information from your student services department at your high school, which includes your school counselor. All right, and then this is just a real, real summary page of just action steps, students, of what you need to do, because I know this was a lot of information. I feel myself talking really, really fast to you right now, but here's just, we talk about being disciplined, and discipline is not only being a pursuer of knowledge, it's a doer of the knowledge you find. So I wanted to outline your disciplined action steps for what you need to do in order to complete your college pursuit. And then at a glance, here are some college deadlines. If you already have in mind the 3 to 5 colleges that you are wanting to apply for, I did just at a glance for the month of October, the month of November, and the month of December. I just outlined certain colleges. And remember, we talked about the difference between early action and early decision. Early decision, you are legally binded to that school. Early action just means you applied early and you're just trying to reap the benefits of getting your application in early. And then regular decision is you applied regular and you didn't apply any early, but there's deadlines attached to early application. So you want to look at that. But if you're interested, I wanted to spell it out for you as to which schools offer early decision, early action, and regular decision for you. So you can look at that later. And then here's a timeline for your process, and just wanted to, before you submit your applications, when you submit your applications, after you've submitted your applications, FAFSA, and just the wait game. Typically, once you submit your college application, within a couple of weeks to a few months, you will have a decision. So be patient. Please don't call the school. and I know that's a hard thing, and that's a tip, but don't call the school, because they have your decision in hand. So if you're calling the school saying, when are you going to decide if I'm getting your school or not, it could maybe fluff some feathers. So just breathe. Give it some thought. Be okay. If you're a person of faith, put some prayer behind it, but, be patient in all of that. It's coming, I promise.
Because at the end of the day, they have to let you know whether you get in or not. They're not just going to leave you hanging. So
right. Exactly.
Just be patient for it.
And then I finally got to the end of the presentation. So students, feel free to take your cell phones out and just snap a picture. Again, this is just information that I borrowed from other people that already had the presentation created, and just inserted some things along the way that I thought would be beneficial for you. So I may not be the holder of all the information for all of your questions, but I absolutely and would be more than happy to point you in the direction to get those questions answered. So Mr. Bates, I thank you so much for the work that you do for our students, and I thank you for inviting me on today as one of your guests.
No, thank you for your awesome presentation. Just thank you for always being so willing to invest in our students and to provide them some gems and some nuggets of knowledge. And so today was very enriching to me. I know it was enriching to the students. I hope some parents got on and they really learned something as well, because it's our goal to provide this information for our students to help set them up for success. And I feel like we accomplished that goal today. And so to hear more about what we have to offer, follow us on our Twitter. It's at RSS_CTE. Follow us on Instagram at RowanCTE. Of course, our Facebook page, RSS CTE. And we also have a YouTube channel that's RSS CTE. And, this is our work-based webinar Wednesday. I learned a lot today. I hope you did as well. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you
Yes.
next time.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.